welcome to the At Peace Parents podcast. I'm Casey, and I'm here to empower you in your decision-making as a parent of a demand-avoidant child. My goal is to share insights that will generate aha moments and support your connection with your child. I'm a mom of two amazing little boys, one of whom is PDA, and I've worked with hundreds of parents just like you to teach them how to lead their child out of burnout and find the clarity, peace, and sense of community they need.
Hi.
Hi, Kendall.
Hi, Casey. So we're doing things a little bit differently today. I am here interviewing you instead of you interviewing somebody else.
Yes, I am
Yes.
excited and a little nervous.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll put you at ease. But yeah, we just wanted to kind of have a conversation to talk about some things that are going on in your life that the families that we work with and who listen to this podcast might, well, I know will be interested in because I'm interested in it and I'm one of those families too. Well, first, I guess before we get into it, do you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Oh,
And
sure.
yeah.
I am Casey. I'm the CEO and founder of At Peace Parents, but at my core, I am also a mom of two PDA kids, an older one named Cooper, who I've talked a lot about in my content and business and social media, who is 10 and thriving and very externalized, and also mom to a younger son who was just diagnosed 2 weeks ago with level 2 autism and who is presenting with an internalized PDA profile, which we became aware of as he started to go into burnout last June.
Yeah. So I'm curious because I feel like a lot of the families that I talk to, either who come into the program or who I do coaching with, like they come in for one child and it's not always an externalized child, but often it is. I feel like it skews more externalized unless the child is older. And then not always, but a lot of times in our conversations, like concerns will come up around a younger sibling or a less externalized sibling. And I feel like there's like a lot of confusion for parents, first of all, on like, does PDA only look one way? And like, you being somebody who is obviously very immersed in this PDA world, like, how do you see William presenting versus Cooper? Like, looking back now, do you see signs of him being PDA from younger? Just curious, like, presentation wise, what have you noticed?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think one of the reasons I've been able to develop some of the frameworks and explanations and conceptualization of PDA as a survival drive for autonomy and equality and a nervous system disability that fluctuates is because my older son, Cooper, is so externalized and so defined by that survival drive for autonomy.
Yeah.
Insofar as like, if I'm thinking of his brain wiring, I'm thinking 99% of what's going on for him is the PDA element, even though he
Okay.
also has generalized anxiety, has an autism diagnosis, and also I think has some ADHD, but that's undiagnosed. So, for me, with him going through burnout, like I left my career in
hmm
research and I have training in human behavior, albeit
hmm
from a political science lens, but it's like I took all of my energy and focus and academic training and just observed and tried to support Cooper, and I could see the mechanisms. I could see
Yeah.
what every time he perceived a loss of autonomy or equality, or when his nervous system stress was accumulating, there was something really obvious. And especially
hmm
with his equalizing, like against his brother, against me, it was very aggressive and violent and verbally scary. It was like
Yeah.
hissing and growling. And so I could really see the fight flight and that he was in that animal part of his brain, the like reptilian part of his brain. So, he was kind of like the perfect, and I know people feel strongly about like, oh, you're this isn't a lab and these are real kids. And I get that, but that's how my brain works. It's like he was
Yeah.
this perfect specimen of like,
Yeah.
I see everything, right?
Right.
And he
Right.
still is, even though he's thriving.
Yeah.
If I slip up on my energy of like, I'm doing this so that he does Y,
Hmm. Yeah.
I can see it in his face and or receive it in his response. Like, oh, he perceived threat around me putting myself above him. Like it is very
Yeah.
obvious, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I saw the dysregulation and differences since the first 5 days of his life, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I have a lot of trauma around it, or did before I did a lot of healing, was because I blamed myself because I was like, something is different here, but every single
Hmm.
person told me, no, it's not. And then I was like, well, the problem has to be me then, right?
Did you feel that even though it appeared so early, it still registered to you like it was your fault?
Well, he masked. I mean, from an
Yeah.
infant, like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
mother-in-law who moved to Washington, D.C. when he was like one, I would just be on the floor, distraught, so tired because I had a full-time job in downtown DC, was commuting, and like every second I was with my son, if I wasn't entertaining him or improving or doing sort of dopamine heavy things for
Yeah.
him, he was going to get hurt or hurt somebody
Yeah.
else, right?
Yeah. Right.
But he would go to her house and he would eat different foods. He would go to bed 2 hours earlier,
Hmm.
in his crib longer, and be like a total gem.
Hmm.
He was, rambunctious at his daycare, but again, pretty high masking. So
Yeah.
the inference that one makes is like,
Right.
well, it must be us. And then also, like, even when he was like first 3 months of his life, I could not get him to stop crying or sleep. Like, we
Yeah.
had a night nurse that some of my friends from graduate school paid for because they were like, Casey is like
Oh.
so, deep postpartum
Yeah.
depression, anxiety, OCD, like definitely in the suicidal realm of things. And like,
Yeah.
they didn't know what to do. And they paid for a night nurse. And she, stayed up 12 hours with him and tracked like when he was sleeping and when he's not. And it was like,
Yeah.
he'd sleep for 10 minutes, he'd wake up for 40, he'd sleep for 5.
Wow.
And Jake and my husband and I would have shifts,
Yeah.
and it was just horrendous, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
My mother-in-law or someone would come to visit and they'd be like, I'll take the baby. And I was like, sure, you know?
Right.
And then Cooper would like fall asleep at their house. And I
Yeah.
now think maybe he was going into like freeze or shutdown.
Right.
But we would even call Granny like Magic Granny, right? Because
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, he would like sleep in his bassinet or stop crying. I used to travel around DC when I was still trying to socialize with people with this like swinging machine that we would assemble like at a dinner party, and I would sometimes get
Yeah.
in people's baths. I'd be like,
Really?
yeah, because water would soothe him, so I'd be like,
Yeah.
strip down, get your bath. And then I just gave up on socializing. I was like, oh, let's end this charade, Casey.
Yeah. That's
Um,
fair.
so, anyways, back to your original question, like William was my easy one. William was like,
Yeah.
I get to do this again and wait, it might not be me because when he was born, he wasn't an easy baby compared
Hmm.
to, I think, most babies, but compared to Cooper, he was like an angel. He would
Yeah.
sleep
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours at a time.
Hmm.
Cried, I would do something about it and it would fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so it was almost like I got a second chance at understanding myself as a mother. And
Yeah.
then Cooper went into burnout like 6 months later. So, William, he's always had sensory issues. Like when we
Okay.
started OT, occupational therapy for Cooper, William didn't want to bathe and he didn't want
Mm.
to put on clothes. So we did like, gentle exposure that eventually worked with play.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
much more straightforward.
Yeah.
And again, I was always comparing it like, well, this is no big deal.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because it's so much easier than,
Yeah. It's all relative, right?
yeah,
It's
it's all
like,
relative. And, for the next 3 years, we moved to Michigan. I left my career. At the time, I didn't think it was forever, but
Right.
I was like, I'm going to take time to figure this out. And,
Hmm.
William was sort of like tooling along, but he was
Yeah.
home a lot of the time because of the pandemic. And he would do little like co-op things, but it was like
Yeah.
2 hours with mom with other kids. So he was,
So it's like he had built-in co-regulation, like he kind of had built-in accommodations just because of what life was at that point.
yeah, because I had left my
Yeah.
career and I was a full-time caregiver.
Yeah.
Although he, the equalizing or targeted behavior against me also went towards William. I'll give an example too of just like being in the space of a dysregulated externalized PDA or in burnout. Like,
Hmm.
I remember trying to give them both baths in the evening and like Cooper getting activated and like putting myself physically between him and my 1.5-year-old and like kind of like
Yeah.
softly tackling him so that he didn't like try and kill the baby.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then
Hmm.
the like screaming and violence that ensued. So, like, even
Yeah.
though I had protected the baby, he was scared of that
Right.
screaming. And that happened a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he would say, what's happening? Or he started repeating the things that I would say to Cooper, which was like, it's not your fault. It's going to be okay. So
Mm.
even when he was like 2 and 3, he was
Yeah.
witnessing this. And I would watch it too in the bedroom upstairs when my husband and I would tag team. He would hear the screams from
Yeah.
downstairs, and my husband
Yeah.
would be de escalating, and he'd be like, is Cooper okay? Like,
Yeah.
so I was like, could this be trauma?
Well, that's what I was going to ask, 'cause I feel like, it would be really reasonable to
Yeah.
assume that what you would be seeing, like any symptom, any like things that could also be ascribed to PDA, that you could also ascribe at that point to trauma. And I feel like this is something that like a lot of the parents that we work with ask,
Yeah, that's
like,
a great question.
yeah.
So I was operating under the assumption that for the last 2 years, I've been like, okay, like he's probably neurodivergent. He's had
Hmm.
sensory issues. He's very literal. He has some special interests, struggles with transitions. He's probably anxious. It has some trauma and maybe autistic, but not
Hmm.
really struggling. Like we were doing almost everything the same for him as for Cooper,
Yeah.
right? Like lots of lower demands, flexible screen time, although he would choose to, after a full time day of kindergarten, and even
Yeah.
when he was a preschooler, he would want to stay for violin, he would want to stay for karate. So he
Okay.
would go out of the home quite a bit, and he seemed to like structure and routine.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, well, I think he's probably different. And he is.
Right.
And then I had to take a dose of my own medicine, which is like, well, suddenly in November of last year, he started having some pretty difficult challenges with
Hmm.
compulsive behavior related to hygiene.
Hmm.
But I was still like, well, is this OCD or
Right.
anxiety? And I was
Yeah.
like, just like I tell parents, like, we need to make a hypothesis,
Hmm.
experiment consistently, and
Hmm.
collect data.
Wait, before we get in there though, I have a question for you
Yeah, yeah.
because, you know, I'm just curious, like your internal experience during this realization when you're like, oh no, I need to like experiment. Because you mentioned before that like when William was little, like you kind of got to redefine yourself as a mom, right? And like find your confidence that it wasn't you, that
Hmm.
there was actually like something else going on with Cooper, right? Because like you could be a mom to William the way that felt natural and he responded well, right? So like in this process of William now reaching burnout, did it challenge your perception of yourself as a mom when you had been parenting under certain assumptions and now your son is in burnout?
It's interesting because it actually challenged me less as a mom and
Mm.
more as a spiritual being and as a business owner.
Okay, talk more about it. I'm curious.
Okay, so like I know I trust myself, I'm confident. I know it's okay to make mistakes. I know eventually we'll figure it out because I've done it
Yeah.
under the hardest circumstances. And I have a lot more support and
Yeah.
resources than I did before. Like my husband now works with the business, so
Hmm.
we can split caregiving unlike before. And my identity is much less wrapped up in my profession and more in how did I show up today within the constraints I faced.
Yeah.
So it didn't really impact me in that way. It impacted me first spiritually
Okay.
because, you know, I'm not of the camp that's like everything happens for a reason, but we
Yeah.
can find meaning in what happens. Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
And this sort of like, it's almost like I felt like a little bit like, did you fly too close to the sun? Did you feel like, oh, like you're actually getting to a place where this PDA experience isn't the defining feature of every cell of your being? And
Mm.
maybe you can sort of have your head above water and not feel so deep into this all the time. And then
Mm.
there had felt like a kind of freedom of like, well, maybe I can go visit a friend and travel a little bit, and maybe both kids will be in school for a little while, and maybe I can think about other things for a
Yeah.
bit, you know?
Right. Right.
And then it's like, have you really learned? Like, have you really
Right.
learned radical acceptance? Have you really learned what you need to learn?
Almost like a second test or something, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And which goes against my everything happens for a reason,
right.
not believing it. It sort of felt like this cosmic, like you are supposed to be here modeling,
Mm.
not just to your kids, but to the people you work with and the people you care about, like this radical acceptance piece. And here we're gonna, you have to really live it.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
I'm like, but I don't want to. I want both kids in my school, in our
Right.
school. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just more deeply accepting like I don't get to choose. Like I don't have control.
Hmm.
And how can I find joy and meaning and purpose in that,
Yeah.
which is what we do with parents, right?
Absolutely.
So there's that. And then, you know, as a business owner and sort of like the face of a lot of
Hmm.
what we teach, even though it's a team, right?
Yeah.
Deeply
Yeah.
involved team behind the scenes. It's like my same doubt that I think most parents face at some
Hmm.
point in this journey of like, well, what if I'm wrong?
Right.
What if he is anxious and OCD and here I am, you know, using this PDA lens because I've become so used to it and that will make the behaviors more entrenched.
Hmm. Hmm. So, like, how have you dealt with that in like a practical way? Because I think sometimes, like, well, not sometimes, often, I think that is a fear that we hold as parents to kids who don't fit even traditional atypical norms,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, like, we're
Like
like,
I get the atypical PDA, but actually now I
right,
see it very clearly through the internalized PDA lens.
yeah,
But last November I didn't, right?
yeah,
So practically, what does that mean? I think first of all, like for me, the scientific process always helps my nervous system feel safe.
so elaborate on that more. Like, what did that
Okay.
look like?
So, what it looks like is this premise of like when we're developing new knowledge, whether it's in an academic sphere or in our own home,
Hmm.
we want to learn something new and figure out something new. There's
Hmm.
going to be a degree of not knowing, right?
Hmm.
And so we will take the information we have, which
Yeah.
is what you observe, theories you might have, other people's work, you know, things you can read.
Hmm.
In my case, it's like, you know, I have all this information. I also have what I'm observing with him. I have been sort of operating under the assumption this is more anxiety and OCD than PDA because I've held some more expectations and boundaries for him, and he's done okay with it. Now he's not
Yeah.
so much because I see the basic needs impacted.
Right.
So I'm going to experiment with the hypothesis that the root cause is also some autonomy and equality losses that he's perceiving as threatening. And I'm going
Okay.
to go deeper into the PDA lens.
Okay.
My husband and I did. So instead of having him like do his own thing on a screen after school,
Yeah.
one of us started sitting with him to have a safe nervous system and observe more
Yeah.
what was going on. And
Mhm.
so, probably from about February until May, I was still in that just like exquisite discomfort of like, is it? Is it not? What's happening? But trusting myself to figure it out by collecting data
Yeah.
and being objective. And then he used to read with me every evening before bed,
Okay. Yeah.
practice his reading. He would practice. Like, I would not push this because I
Of
don't
course.
push anything.
Right.
I'd be like, Mama, we have to do my homework. And then one night he was just like, I can't. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I checked in with his OT, and they had been noticing more withdrawal and more inability to ideate, and his eating, the variation, what he was eating, decreased from February by 2/3.
Wow.
He started having night wakings and bloody noses
Oh.
like a couple times a week. And then the hygiene was really an indicator, and he would not just have the compulsive behavior, but really like start fighting me on bathing and
Mm.
that. And so for parents, you know, one of the things we always look for is basic needs impact because we can't always see what's going on inside the nervous system, right?
Right. Right.
And so it was really for me, and then the school resistance started coming up.
Hmm.
And so all of those, especially the basic needs getting worse, I was like, this is looking much more like internalized PDA, even though he doesn't
Hmm.
realize
Hmm.
externally. And so we made the decision to take the next step in our experiment, which was he signed up for all these summer camps. There's only two
Yeah.
weeks of the summer when he doesn't have summer camps. Actually, that's not true. We went on vacation, but we didn't make him go, and he just
Yeah.
was with us all summer.
Yeah.
And then after about 2 or 3 months, we started to see what I think was going on inside of him come out more, which is common, right?
Okay. Yeah.
He'll
Right.
be playing Minecraft and he'll be like, stupid idiot, like
Yeah.
equalizing under his breath, killing a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in Minecraft, calling his dad a toilet face. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's starting to come out here.
But it's interesting too. Like, I want to note that timeline because I think, like, especially with our internalized PDAers, right? It's like the way that you're describing it to it, I almost feel like it's like the externalizer has like an exoskeleton of like their nervous system, right? Like it's like literally like worn on the outside,
Yeah,
right? And then the internalizer, it's hidden. And so then for parents who are like, I don't know, my other kid or my kid in general may be internalized PDA, but like, now I've started accommodating and 3 months in, things seem worse,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's like we do observe that, but like
Yeah,
for
I'm
an
observing it.
internalizer, that's yeah,
Yeah.
right. But I
And it
think like that
freaks you
timeline is
out.
important. It does. It freaks you out.
It freaks you out.
Yeah.
So what do I go back to?
Yeah.
um, the scaffolding of the logic and the what we know
Yeah.
about how this works. So if the hypothesis is correct, which we're seeing
Hmm.
data to corroborate that he's PDA, then his nervous system would work the same as Cooper's, which is,
Right.
except he would have the same perception of threat around autonomy and equality. But whereas Cooper would go into mobilization or fight flight,
Hmm.
William would go down a more freeze or shut down pathway of the nervous
Right.
system, which is what his teachers and stuff were observing, right?
Right.
He started wearing sweatshirts and like pulling himself into the mud
Mm,
and withdrawing on the playground and not talking as much. And so then, from my training in polyvagal theory, what I know is that the nervous system is hierarchical.
yeah.
So if we've spent a lot of time in freeze and shut down, which in my personal experience as a mom, I have,
Yeah.
then as we're starting to get to safety and heal and perceive that we can come out of that, we move up through the mobilization, which is
Yeah.
more externalized behavior. Like I'm seeing more meltdowns, I'm seeing more equalizing. But to me, like through the logic of what we know about the nervous system, I'm like, okay, this is a good sign. He's coming out of
Yeah.
freeze. He's coming out of
Right.
freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that even with my own kids, like, when one of mine went into, severe burnout from, PDA burnout from school. And he actually is very externalized, but had gotten to the point where he was in an immobilized state and like having shutdowns at school. And it took about 3 months. And then all of a sudden, it was like all of the externalizing started to come out. And I was, whoa.
Yeah.
And now we're through that, right? But it definitely like takes you off, took me aback, right? Like, oh my God, like even though I could expect it and explain it, right? Like it still hits like, you know, when you have your kid like at least calm on an iPad and then all of a sudden there's like
Yeah.
a lot of, externalized behavior, then it's like it feels, I think just because it's so much more in your face, it feels like you're doing something wrong, but you're not. It's just being expressed differently.
Yeah. And even though it's externalized, like I'll be honest, it's not anything compared to Cooper. Like he's
Yeah.
not attacking me, he's screaming
Yeah.
and saying he hates me and kicking.
Right.
I mean, it's like I just view it as data. I know
Yeah.
it's not personal. Like he even does this thing where he'll like be like, "I hate you, get out of here." And I say, "I'm not going to leave your room. I'm going to be
Hmm.
right here." And then like I'll feel him like move his body over to me and start like squishing against me. And I'll be like, "Hey, baby." And he'll be like, "I still hate you." But like then he'll squeeze into me and I'm like, "Okay, we're in the in between
Yeah.
here." Like I'll just wait until he's ready. But like he's like practically on my lap.
Right.
And he's like, "But I still hate you."
Totally. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I'm curious too, like, how is Cooper responding to you accommodating William more intensively? Like, is there
Yeah.
any like equality stuff that's coming up, like threats to equality or
I should knock on all the wood before I
yeah.
say this because he's been super supportive of his brother.
Mhm.
And, he's at the point now where he's almost 11 and a lot of his life takes place outside of the home,
Right.
right? Like he goes to school all day, comes home, we feed him his food, and then
Yeah.
by 5, he's on the road to football and he gets back at
Yeah.
9 when William's already asleep. And then on the weekends, my husband will be with him all day Saturday for football. And
Um,
then we'll sort of, one of us will be with the other, but now he'll have play dates or like go fishing with a friend. But he's tried to support William actually by, being like, you can do it, like, let's go outside. So the only times William will do that is when Cooper's like encouraging it.
really.
And they've been doing a lot of collaborative Minecraft with their dad. Like each of them has their own screen.
Okay.
They all go into the same server and build together.
Okay.
There was one pretty terrible incident where there was a murder in
Oh
the
no.
world from Cooper to William that resulted in an hour-long panic attack.
Oh,
But overall, and I hope it stays this way,
yes.
he's been
Fingers crossed.
pretty okay with it. Like, I think he is so self aware of his own neurotype, PDA, autistic,
Yeah.
that he's like able to recognize, like, remember when you spent a year and a half out of school? That's what William's going through. And you remember when
Right.
you needed your pacifier? Well, this is what William needs. And he remembers. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like in such a good place now. Like he has such a large window of tolerance, right? That he can be in the part of his brain to be thinking about those things, which is really cool. And I
yeah.
feel like it's like a very hopeful thing too, like, that our kids do get there, with accommodations and time. I think a lot of times we're like, okay, we're ready to do the accommodations, but we're not ready to wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of not doing involved with
Yeah.
what we're doing, of just being with.
Yeah. That's cool though. And that's nice that they have that William has that support from Cooper. I'm curious too, like now are you seeing things starting to improve? Like what has the timeline been like in terms of like where you're starting to see improvements and what are you kind of tracking to
Mhm.
see those improvements?
So it's sort of, I think of it stepwise, of like, I'm not worried about anything but basic needs, connection, and nervous system. Like all the learning stuff, I'm not like, it's out the window. So we're trying to stabilize the hygiene one, which,
Hmm.
for better or for worse, what we have to do now is have someone with him supervising 100% of the time to prevent or correct the behavior.
Okay.
It's a little bit behavioral,
Yeah.
right? But in order to keep everyone safe and clean, we have to have someone sort of watching to make
Hmm.
sure that it's not happening. And
Yeah.
so right now, my husband and I are splitting time. So one of us is sitting with him, and I'll do work or read or whatever. And then he'll be like, hey, mama, look at this. Or I'll watch a show
Yeah.
with him and we'll talk about it. So, you know, that is improving. The
Okay.
the main and first basic need. Sleep is improving. Like, as
Some
soon as we pulled him from school, he stopped the night wakings and then
interesting.
and nosebleeds. He hasn't had one since. And I'm noticing him sleeping in up to an hour later than he usually did,
Yeah.
which to me is like his body's relaxing.
Yeah. It's huge.
He's not eating more variety yet, but he's eating more amount.
Hmm.
And then, the connection piece did not go away in the same way. Like there was a withdrawal and lack of
Yeah.
engagement, but there wasn't like a lack of felt safety or trauma that there was with Cooper because I used to be so traditional. So I'm seeing that come out more and more, and his sense of
Yeah.
humor. So what I'm doing practically, like just for full
Yeah.
disclosure, is I need someone to hold me accountable because I
Hmm.
have the same, like, well, can I really let him be on a screen for 14 hours, right?
Totally.
Can I really take this brilliant kid who in his neuropsych is gifted in some ways
Hmm.
and, lower down in others? Can I really just not teach, right?
Hmm.
And can I really let go of like my ideas, which were like, we're going to go, you can be on a screen for 12 hours, but then we're going to go to the apple orchard. And it's like, no,
Right. Right.
no, we're not. We're not.
No, we're not. No.
So, I think I move through that really quickly now, and I recognize it myself of just like, I'm working with Kelly Edwards, who's been on our podcast, who's a specialist
Yes.
in unschooling or
It's amazing.
self-directed
Yeah.
education. So I hired her to coach me and
Awesome.
regulate me. And I'm like,
I love it.
basically, I need someone to hold me accountable where like
Hmm.
we can chat about the fact that the apple orchard isn't about anyone but me. You know?
Right. Yes. Totally. Well, and I feel like this is so key. Like, I remember like before, so I'm an alumna, obviously, of the Paradigm Shift program myself. But like, I remember before doing that, it's like I had all of this information,
Mhm.
right? And like, I was able to synthesize it, intellectualize it, like, I got it. But like, to hold myself accountable and to really like begin to practice, I really needed somebody else by my side.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's like that's what our kids need too, right? Like they need somebody else by their side. That's like the safe co-regulating nervous system. But I think sometimes we forget as adults who are intelligent, capable humans that understand these things, like sometimes we really just need another human to like walk through it with us and
Yeah.
like be a third party and be like, it's going to be okay. And this is really what it's about. And have you looked at it from that perspective?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the thing that Kelly is really skilled at is pulling the learning from anything that
Mm,
they're doing and being like,
yeah.
oh, you know, and I know Minecraft can be super educational, but like she's like pulling like here's where the storytelling is and this and like here's where the engineering is. And it's cool for me to be able to see that with her help.
Yeah.
And then, I think every night I collect data. So,
Hmm.
really simple. So, I am not collecting a lot on the connection piece because that's pretty strong. But if
Yeah.
he says something that's unexpected, I might make a note of it. Like, he was asking about like our family history and like my mom's going through
Mm,
cancer treatment. And he was like asking about heaven and like who's going to be there, pretty deep
yeah.
stuff. So, to me, that's a signal of deep felt safety.
Definitely.
I'm tracking the basic needs, basically the hygiene piece,
Yeah.
bathing, washing hands, compulsive behavior.
Hmm.
That's the main thing. And then I'm looking for like what we're doing. Like I'm tracking like, oh, dad played Minecraft with him for 2 hours. Mom talked to him about this like cat show. We chatted for 20 minutes and then he did
Yeah.
this game on his own. So like not looking at screens as like a black box, but like how
Right.
is he using them to give me ideas for like, oh, he's super interested in this science thing that we're watching with magnets and angles and like I'm going to make a note of that for maybe a year from now. Like
Yes.
this is how we would talk about that. Or,
Yes.
we wrote a letter to this kid, Caleb from Kids to Kids. It's like a
Okay.
cute.
I don't know it.
He races these monster trucks and these elaborate builds with his dad.
Cool.
And so, like in the evenings, William will watch it with me and we'll, do the slow motion and like rewind.
Yeah.
And so we wrote him a letter together and like
Love it.
took pictures of his Pokemon cards and printed them out so he could like send something to him, like a gift.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, maybe down the line, if he
Hmm.
doesn't go back to formal schooling and we continue with unschooling or self-directed, like we could do a lot of science with these builds if that's some
Totally.
we could strew stuff about building. And so Jake, my husband, also has some creative ideas where he got this like paper like shipbuilding thing or like
Oh,
cardboard shipbuilding because William is very much a little engineer, whereas Cooper
yeah.
is more creative and more athletic and more boy next door, like
Yeah.
me. um, and so my husband just started doing it next to him
Yeah.
while he was watching or playing Minecraft, and they're building it little bits at a time. So I am seeing improvements, but I think the biggest improvements are within myself of just like really being like, okay, Casey, it's time to let
Yeah.
go of your control
Yeah.
once again.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is so hard to do.
Yeah.
Would you say it's felt easier or harder to like let go of that control this time around versus when Cooper was in burnout?
Oh my God, it's a million times easier. Like
Yeah.
the apple orchard thing,
Yeah.
right? Like I would have held on to that for a year or so.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
like I
Yeah.
was so like they have to get outside. Like we need
Yeah.
fresh air. Like it needs to be, before I ever started doing stuff in PDA or created this business, like I was a more traditional parent. Like I
Yeah.
was never into gentle parenting or anything like that. I was just like, I
Yeah.
need to do what I say. you know? Like
Right.
it wasn't mean. I just like, I read 1, 2, 3 Magic when he was like
Yeah.
3. and was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to do this. Or like I read Bringing Up Bebe,
Uh-huh.
and there was this study she referenced about sleep training. It only had
Yes.
12 people in this, but I looked up the original study when I was pregnant and I was like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I
Interesting. Yeah.
I did sleep train like in a
Yeah.
really pretty like the Wise Bluth method, like
Yeah.
pretty extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, I needed to do that to stay alive, actually, in retrospect.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I really lost a sense of self and ego and identity and place in the world and how I understood
Hmm.
behavior. I mean, I'm trained in rational choice theory and like
Yeah.
econometrics for how people behave, right? It's all rational.
Right.
And then I'm gifted this kid who like none of it's rational. It's all coming from the
Mm-mm.
subconscious perception of threat.
Hmm.
And so my identity was very tied into my accomplishments professionally.
Yeah.
And, now I care a lot about the mission of what we do, and it facilitates me to be home and also my husband be home while we also have careers.
Yeah.
But I hold it less as part of my identity and more as like this facilitates me being the best version of who I am and allows me to contribute professionally to something I care about
Yeah. You're
personally.
finding meaning in it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the journey to finding meaning in this new difficult phase of life was a much shorter path than it was the first time around.
Yeah. I mean, well, let me just tell you the last six
Yeah.
months, like,
Yeah.
things were really uncertain in the economy. So
Yeah.
business was up and down. Both my parents were going through cancer treatment.
Hmm.
My son was going into burnout, and I was trying to steer the ship, like making sure we could keep the business open while
Yeah.
all this was happening. And so, that was trial by fire, certainly.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that is settled. Like my dad is in remission, my mom
Yay.
is doing okay.
Yeah.
We made the decision about school. It felt like a relief.
Yeah.
We're figuring out the new Instagram algorithm, all the things.
Right.
So, life just keeps throwing stuff at us.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty light-footed, shall we say. Like I practice non-attachment and like
Yeah.
my Buddhist practice really, which I did not have before Cooper went into burnout. Like I'm just like
Right.
I can take things much more lightly of like, here we go.
Yeah.
Like
Right. Yeah.
buckle up.
Totally.
And there's not as much loss.
Right. Yes.
There's
Yeah.
not much loss because I already lost the people in my life who weren't going to be open-minded and supportive of my
Hmm.
decisions. And I was already not in the public school. So the private school, we did have to pull out, but they've been very loving about it. Like
Right. Right.
they weren't like, you're making a terrible decision for your child's
Right.
future, which, like, of course, makes you doubt it. They're like,
Of course.
you guys are good parents. He's so lucky to have you. Like, if he wants to come back, great. And that's a very
Yeah.
different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes a big difference when you have people around you who, are just there, even if they don't fully understand, they are understanding and they trust you.
Mhm.
Like I feel like it's so huge to be able to pull him from a school where they trust you as a parent rather than
Yeah.
somewhere else where they're skeptical of your decision making.
Yeah. And of course, like, if the institution or authority is, you're already worried, am I making the right decision? And then they're like,
Hmm.
you're making the wrong one. It makes you doubt yourself just because
Yeah.
they're the experts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have another question. So like for parents listening who like have an internalized child or like a suspected internalized child, a lot of times I feel like there is like the questions that come to us are like, can I do harm by experimenting through the PDA lens if I think this might be happening? And also like, do I wait until they're is a burnout that is, you know, signifying that this is likely the cause, like what kind of, how have your experiences informed your views on that?
I think a big part of what keeps me sane and what we try and teach parents is like, we're going to stay radically in the present moment and not make decisions from fear, but
Hmm.
rather from intuition, love, and data.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is like, this is a fluctuating nervous system disability, and there are burnouts that we can't prevent, even if we're doing everything perfectly, right?
Yeah.
I think we don't have to get into like big binaries of like, should I drop every single demand and deliver all their food and have no boundaries around bedtime? Or should I do traditional parenting, right?
Right.
And that's the space we've always been in with William, which is like he probably gets more flexibility about screens than most
Hmm.
kids his age, not in content, but in amount. We are flexible about what he wants to eat. We're very, we use a lot of the same stuff, like the humor, letting him talk back
Yeah.
to us. It hasn't been drastically different except for like the expectations of like bedtime and what he eats and, gently pushing or encouraging when he seems resistant, which in the past, when
Hmm.
we moved through the transition, he seemed to have a good time,
Yeah.
right? So at the
Yeah.
time, it was working, and he was
Right. So
happy.
it's not that you made the wrong decision before, it's just you're in a different place now. And with what you're seeing in front of you right now, you're going to make a different decision.
Totally, which is like
Yeah.
the name of the game, right? So
Yeah.
when the basic needs started to be impacted, I didn't pull him out of school. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is different. Let's see, as we tweak and adjust, how, this could be. The first time it presented was on a drive to Chicago for a family reunion. And
Hmm.
I was like, well, it's a stressful travel weekend. I don't know what this means. Like, it might be just a stress behavior for this.
Hmm.
And it ebbed and flowed until about February, which is when we observed different data. Still didn't know if it was full PDA. I didn't change his bedtime, the expectations, or like pull him out of school. I said, he needs more nervous system support. So one of us needs
Yeah.
to be with him more. And, maybe we relaxed a little bit around sweets. Like he could have these
Hmm.
yogurt bars more. And I wouldn't be like, let's have something healthy first as much.
Right. Right.
And then the data became much more clear. And then we had this really hard decision about
Yeah.
what do we do about school in the summer? So we
Yeah.
weren't like, we're unenrolling him in June.
Right.
We were like, we're going to experiment with summer, giving him autonomy around going.
Yeah.
And then observed all summer, and then still had some uncertainty around the decision to
Yeah.
unenroll him.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
him enrolled, and we, a week before, 2 weeks before school, said, you know what, this feels like not the right decision. And it's only then in the month after that that all of the more observational data, it's like, oh, and the autism
Right.
diagnosis, and it's like, oh yeah, like we
Right.
should not have even considered having him in school. But that's almost, it's 9 months from when I first started seeing the basic needs. And so,
Yes.
you go with the information you have at the time to the best of your
Hmm.
abilities, giving yourself permission to change your mind if things change or that you have a different season.
Yes. And I think it's really important to recognize that, like, you're not doing something wrong by taking time and observing. Like, you don't need to have an answer immediately. I think this is something that was really transformational for me when I started thinking differently about how to parent my kids. Was like, before it was like, am I doing this right? Am
Mhm.
I making the right decision? Right? Or like, am I looking at things the right way? And if you shift from that into, am I looking at things? Period. Am I observing? And then you just take note of what you're observing without the pressure to do it right, without the pressure to do it on a particular timeline. It allows you to glean so much more information and then make what are more accurate decisions for your family at that time, whether you decide to change course later or not. It's like you have as much information as you're going to get because you're just observing. You're not letting yourself be pressured by, which is understandable to feel pressured by, but you're just kind of like, okay, let me let the external pressures fall away. It doesn't matter if, they don't go to school tomorrow. We're just going to take it one day at a time. And then, like, you're able to take the information that you have just with observation and make a decision and try something and know that you're not going to ruin your child's chances of XYZ forevermore.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like
Even if
this
other
period
people
in
make
time.
you feel that way.
And they do
Yeah.
make you feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we get it from everywhere, but it's not true.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
And I also think sometimes we just have to make a decision,
Hmm.
move forward. And like,
Right.
I don't think you can ever know for sure, right?
No, you can't.
Like when I made the unenrolling decision, it was a really hard one for me and
Yeah.
Jake. And it's only now that I'm like, oh, because we change things, we can now see differently.
Yes. I always say this. This is something that's like a mantra in my own life that like you cannot see the future until you are in it. And to be in it, you have to take a step to get there. Right. So like you have to make a decision to be in a different place. Period. That's just the logic of it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not going to like be able to peer over the side and know what the different place is while you're still in the before. So yeah, just like making a decision brings you into a new reality and then you have a totally different field of vision.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's scary. Yeah.
it is scary.
I think I have much more confidence in doing things like that though, because like it has turned out well. Like even
Hmm.
leaving my job, moving to Michigan, you know, all these crazy feeling decisions that I've made
Yeah,
somehow ended up guiding me to a place I could have never imagined. But because there was so much openness, it was a possibility. And like, I met you, I met really interesting people, I have
yeah.
business now. Like, none of that was anything I could have ever fathomed, right? Like,
But so like for the parent who is going through this and they haven't gotten to that place yet where they can look back and say it worked out,
yeah.
right? Like how can a parent pull themselves through that fear and that doubt?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this gets into the spiritual stuff a little bit, which is like we
Yeah,
only have the present moment. Like, that's the
yeah,
only thing we have control over. And when rumination and fears and anxiety takes over, like, the most simple practice is like coming back into my body of like,
yeah,
am I breathing? Can I focus on like the tingling in my hands? Am I focused on like my son's long eyelashes or freckles? Like, what is happening in the present? And
hmm,
then can I show up to it even if I don't like it? Like, can I be here
yeah,
and allow myself to only do that? Like, I am allowed to worry as much as I want. I can have all
yeah,
the fear thoughts, but like, can I save it for tomorrow? And
hmm.
today I just survive and
Yeah,
hang my hat on how I showed up today. And then if I want, I can worry about it tomorrow and then I do it
yeah,
again.
yeah. And do you find like when you do that, like when you're able to stay in the present moment, even if it is a really hard day, does it feel different for you?
I mean, I wish I could say that, like, yeah, like when I'm in a more mindful space, it feels really good in my body. It doesn't. Like, I have panic
Yeah,
symptoms all the time.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Regardless of the PDA parenting, like, I have panic disorder. And,
right.
when I meditate or am mindful, I recognize, wow, my brain is really an asshole. Like, I'm ruminating.
Yeah.
I'm already catastrophizing. I mean, we're not even talking about my kids' future. We're talking about global futures and civil wars,
Yeah.
all the horrible things that are going to happen.
Hmm.
Climate change, whatever it is, or just images of violence and hard things. Like my brain is not a
Yeah.
friendly ghost in there. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's like a spiritual practice to learn to be with the present
Mhm.
moment and like see it, observe
Yeah.
it without judgment. Like that, there's awake awareness and loving
Hmm.
kindness, which is the
Hmm.
premise of meditation and Buddhist practice. So it's much easier for me to numb out and like go
Yeah.
on social media and have a glass of wine or, you know, not be present because it
Yeah.
passes faster and less painfully. However, it's like it will keep coming out,
Right.
right? And then I do
Yeah.
have like moments of respite where like I am just observing William while he's watching. And then I see the curve of his cheek and I'm like, oh my God, look at how cute he is.
Yeah.
And then he
Yeah.
like, turns with like one of his teeth missing and like
Oh.
tells me about the cats and like he's gonna want a cat. And then I'm like, everything is okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here with this beautiful child who's smiling at me with one tooth missing and all the
Yeah.
love and telling me about what he's thinking about. And I'm safe and
Yes.
my kids are safe and my husband's at football with Cooper and like I'm okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. But it's only when I think like is he going to get into college that I start going off the
Right.
rails.
Yeah. Fair.
So I don't let myself do that.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, it really makes a difference. It's like our minds are so powerful, and it really is a practice and a muscle to like stay present and like observe what it is that we have, and like, without being too trite, like the gifts that we have with our kids, even though things are challenging.
Yeah.
Like, those moments. What is it about the cheeks too? I don't know what it is, but it's like, yeah, I get that too. I see
Ah,
the cheeks and I'm like,
the cheeks are so good.
they're so good. They're so good.
Yeah.
Well, we could probably talk forever, but is there anything else that you want to communicate about your experience with the second burnout, or I don't know, parents who are even experiencing their first burnout with one of their PDA children, or parents with an internalized child who are feeling more confused, maybe than a child for whom the activation is so obvious. Anything you want to like communicate to parents?
I think just like I get it. I'm with
Yeah.
you. Like
Yeah.
we do not rise above the human experience even if we're teaching and coaching, right? So, you can do it.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'll be with you in the trenches of Minecraft
Yes.
and not leaving your room. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have anything like profound to end
No,
up.
but I think that's helpful though, because I think sometimes we do feel like, where's the entrance to the like, where's the exit, right? Like, where's the off ramp? Where, like, or how do we like win this thing or beat this and rise above? And it's like, I think part of what we teach when we work with parents, and maybe one of the most important things, right, is this radical acceptance piece of like, that's not the goal and it's not possible. And we're just going to be in life and we're going to figure out how to live our lives now. It's not about the future. It's like, we're going to be in a room today playing Minecraft. And we may or may not be in the room tomorrow playing Minecraft, but we're just going to focus on today and like get through that, find meaning where we can, find connection, and just, hang our hat on the fact that we showed up the way that we wanted to as best we could.
Yeah. And being able to find joy and peace along the way. Like,
Hmm.
I think we have this really unique experience where it's like there are times and seasons with a PDA or where it's like you are so deep in caregiving mode, you can compare it to having a child with cerebral palsy or like a really debilitating, visible disability. And then there are
Yeah.
times when they're not in burnout or seasons or recovering from burnout completely, where it's like you look like you have a typical kid. And so it's like I've gotten both so far,
Hmm.
right? After my first
Yeah.
sons, but I always think about like there are parents who have kids who will never walk or,
Hmm.
be able to have control over their muscles or who will die prematurely or who have to show up in this type of intensive caregiving day after day without any hope of quote recovery, right?
Right.
and
Right.
and those people and parents find ways to live and be resilient and find joy and peace in their lives, and I think that's something I always think about.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side of it where when we do have these moments when our head comes above water of like, holy moly, like I know this looks quote normal to everyone else, but look at us,
Yes.
And it's like we're at the playground, everybody's
Yeah.
happy, and it's like the most joyful, exciting thing that like a typical parent wouldn't appreciate. And so I don't think we can control when we get which all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And it can be a little bit crazy that like we have that little degree of control over our lives
Hmm.
sometimes. But I think that's
Hmm.
honestly true for everybody. We just have an extreme
We
fluctuating
have we
experience.
have the externalized experience there. It's like our experience is on the outside, like it's not hidden.
Yeah.
I mean, to other people it is, but like to us, it's like, you know, yeah, nobody actually has control, but for us, it's very obvious that we do not.
Yeah, because it's daily
It's
instead of like
daily.
something happened, like a
Right.
flood or. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's like a daily reminder, like you do not have control over this
Hmm.
other human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more you try and
Absolutely.
exert that, the more you're going to pay for it.
100,000%. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a metaphor for life that I think, that is to me the rising above for a parent.
Yeah.
When they're like, I'm confident and trust myself enough as a good parent to know that whatever comes, I can handle it. And
Yes.
like I can find joy and live my life by making decisions to build a life that works for us no matter what.
Yes. And, you know, just one last thought. Like, I think, so often we're told to teach our children resilience, right? When really this is an opportunity. This is like the biggest opportunity for us to model resilience.
Yeah,
Like we are given, we
the
are
pivot.
given, yeah, exactly, the pivot. And like, we can do it. We can do it. We can find that result. Doesn't mean it's not incredibly challenging at times, but we have that resilience in us and we can find it for ourselves and find joy and inevitably model it for our children from our experience, which is the best way to teach a PDA or anyway, by not teaching, but just living, right?
Yeah,
So, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree. Yeah.
awesome. Well, thanks for
Well,
this interview.
yeah. Thanks for letting me,
Fun though.
yeah, this was really fun. And thanks for letting me, poke your brain about your recent experiences and enjoyed it.
Me too. Thanks,
Yeah.
Kendall.
Yeah. Thanks, Casey.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for being here with me at the At Peace Parents podcast. This is your source for all things related to understanding, supporting, accommodating, and advocating for your PDA child. To go deeper on any of these topics, check out my course offerings and masterclasses at the website www.atpeaceparents.com. To completely transform the way you think about and relate to your child and to bring peace and stability to your home, join us for the next cohort of the Paradigm Shift program.